It's that time of the year, you can see from behind me, when I just love being out on the bank. November, probably my favourite month of the year to catch carp. Not necessarily the best time of the year to catch carp, because that's probably in April or May, but at this time of the year you get all of the lovely colours on the bank, the fallen leaves, the colours of the trees. You also get less anglers on the bank, which is always a bonus on this lake. I'm over at Lincoln on my Lincolnshire syndicate water, where I've done a few vlogs in the last 18 months or so. And this year it's fair to say that this lake's been quite busy, so to turn up today and see only 3 anglers fishing plus myself, so that's 4 of us, God, I tell you what, I am absolutely looking forward to this session. I've got 72 hours to try and catch myself a carp or two, and during the course of this session, just a second, let this red arrow go over. This is about the 14th time I've done a take on this from the intro, but I keep getting interrupted by the red arrows, so it's not a bad thing, but you can't see them today unfortunately because there's so much cloud about, but they are nice to watch when they're about. But at the moment when I'm trying to do this vlog, you can do one at the minute, Mr. Red Arrows. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll carry on walking around the lake, and I shall join you in a short while in the swim that I've chosen to fish. Right, this is the swim I'm fishing, and I'm just going to talk you through it. I have featured it before in my vlogs. It's called the Shallows, and basically what you've got is a no fishing area around there to the left, which is a really shallow bay, and it's quite sharp on some of the shallow rocks that's out there. It's only a couple of feet deep this side of that rope. I don't know if you can see that. You've got a couple of white buoys out there. Let me see if I can zoom in. There's one there in the middle of the bay, and then you've got another one a little bit further out, and the tactic is to fish as tight to that second buoy as you possibly can. It's almost 25 wraps, and you've got a nice little clear area there where it drops down to about 3 or 4 foot. That is the main rod for this swim, but you've also got plenty of other features out here to the right. You've got a plateau that runs almost in line with that swim on the far bank over there, which is called Last Stop. I think you can just see if I zoom in over there. There's Last Stop. That's the last stop on the railway bank, as they call it. And almost in line with there, you've got like a plateau that's really shallow. There's a lot of weed on top of there, and it's an absolute haven for the carp, certainly in the summer months, but I've never really fished it in the summer months. And the fish just go in and out of this bay all the time. They know it's a safe area. They're going there to spawn. They know they don't get caught in there. And apparently, I've not really been into the back of it, but it's quite deep in the back of it, up to about 6 or 7 feet according to a couple of the bailiffs. But yeah, you've got loads of other good areas that's out here to the right. You've got lots of clear spots, little gravelly spots, little silty spots. It drops a lot deeper out here to the right, and as it drops off to the deeper water, that's where it goes out towards that middle section over there, where you do get a lot of fish getting caught from those middle swims. But they do come in close as well. Whilst I was out in the boat the other day, I saw quite a few fish just drifting in along this margin. They do get round here to the left, and in a moment I'll show you some footage of where I'm probably going to be putting my left hand rod, which is just down this margin here to the left, close to the reeds down there. I'll show you now. Typical of this time of the year, you get the, well, there's a carp right over the back there. Just see him shooting out the bay. Yeah, you've not got a lens on here, so a polarising lens to see it, but that was a probably mid-20, something like that. But you can see all this weed here on the surface, which really gathered in this area. It's all drifting into this bay, and that water below there is about 2 or 3 foot deep, and this cover that the weed gives this area attracts fish. And last week I was drifting around in the same area and I saw a fish that was easily a mid-40 just cruising below the weed. Definitely worth a rod somewhere around this area. These little spots, they get ignored. You can just see here, down to the left, that's the swim that I'm fishing there. So I need to wade out to the end of this bush really to get a rod into here, to cast it down into here. But most people just fish straight out to spots out there, the known spots. But these little quiet spots like this, definitely at this time of the year when the fish are seeing a lot of pressure, they know where they've not been caught and they tend to hide away in them. So I'm going to get a rod somewhere in here tonight, I think. Just going to have a little cruise around and see if I can see some more attractive looking spots than others. The areas that are quite clear on the bottom, sort of whiter in appearance, and maybe drop a rod somewhere close by. Well, not drop a rod, cast a rod. You can't drop a rod from a boat on this lake, before anybody quotes me on that. You can bait up from a boat, but you can't put your rods out. Oof, there you go, cool, look at that one. Oof. There you go. He didn't like seeing me, did he? You can see the plume of clouds there. That was a mid-30, I'd have said. Now, one of the things this lake has definitely got right is its stocking polishes, because it's introducing new fish from its stock ponds every couple of years, and this looks like it could be one of the more recent ones at £27. Big scales on it. I think it's probably one of Neil White's fish or Gary Bassey's fish. Lovely looking fish, really is. Absolutely beautiful. I'm sure Dave, who runs the lake, will correct me on what I'm saying, but that definitely looks like a Gary Bays Neil White fish. Lovely looking carp. A great way to get off the mark as well during this session, during the hours of darkness as well. 10 o'clock. To show you the other side of it. And I'm sure that one is going to grow into an absolute banger in the years to come. Beautiful looking fish. It's definitely made one old boy happy as well. Brilliant. Quite ready to start the session anyway. One of the things I've got to be careful of when sinking these lines here is these leaves, because this area is really shallow and the swans are going backwards and forwards in this area. So if you don't sink your line properly, you can imagine if they go down in that area where that line is, they soon pick it up. And last week I had a proper 20-minute boat battle with this one, unfortunately. Thankfully this one was okay. It was just wrapped around its foot, the line was. Managed to sort it out and it went back absolutely fine before anybody starts complaining. I'll definitely never ever try and harm a swan. They're absolutely lovely creatures, but they can be a bit of a pain in the ass though with lines. But that line, you can just see out there, I don't know if you can, the two V's are nearly together. The V from this end is almost joining that end on the line, and once they join, that's it, it's sunk. The line is now sunk, so I'm just keeping the tension on the line now, just to make sure that it is as low in the water as possibly can get it. So I'm just lowering the tip down. It's not on the bottom, but just let this train go by. But I'm doing my best to make sure that it's as low as it can be. So that's 25 wraps, that is, so it's quite far out. So there's plenty of line out there. So all I'm doing here as well is just taking the bail arm off. I'm not walking back with the line coming off the clutch. Don't like to do that. Always creates lots of line twists, so I'm just doing it with the bail arm off. Keeping the tip down as much as possible. That's something I always do. This is pretty pathetic. You can see here I've just got my reel handles in almost exactly the same position. I've got everything lined up with the bail arms as well. I like to do that. I also make sure the spool is closed as tightly as possible to the reel, so I've got no gaps behind there, just in case it rains. It's not going to today, but if it rains and you get some grit or water down the back of that spool, it does cause a few problems in time. So all I'm doing is just going to walk the reel out so I can close the spool up as much as possible. Making sure I'm not moving the lead. It is a bit of a hassle, but it's just how I like things done. So almost closed. A couple more turns and I'll have it done. We've all got our ways of doing stuff, and this is one of the daft ways of mine. Right, there we go. That is perfect. Just going to loosen the clutch ever so slightly. Do have to let a little bit of line off the clutch just to get it as perfect as I want it. There we go. So you can see I've got the bail arms all set exactly the same. I've got the reel handles almost the same, just a few millimetres out. Some people complain about that, say I'm a bit of a nod because of it, but I like it. It's good enough for me. And I'm just going to check that is level. Yep, that's okay. Swinger clip all sorted. That will start taking up a little bit of line because there's going to be a little bit of bow in that, and I'll just let it do that, and then I'll just tighten it up so it's as level as the other rods in a minute. That's probably about right, so just going to let it off nice and tight. There are lads on this lake who fish this swim with slack lines, but slack lining at 25 wraps, that's asking for trouble if you ask me, but we all do things differently. Right, that's good to go. I can sit back, relax, get myself some food on the go. Right, excuse my messy bivvy. The wife will say I'm exactly the same at home, but that's another subject. Right, just want to mention something I've done to my EXO Plus. If you watch my vlogs on a regular basis, you might remember that I said that I'm now using this bivvy again because it's autumn, gives me a lot more comfort. Well, you'll also notice that I've fitted the inner capsule, which is there. Now, if you buy an EXO Plus as standard, what you basically get is the bivvy, a couple of infill panels, you get the skull cap, you get the poles and the ground sheet and the pegs. But you can buy separately the inner capsule, which is absolutely perfect for this time of the year, which gives you that dual layer protection. And obviously at the moment we're not getting those cold nighttime temperatures, so we're not getting so much condensation in the bivvy, but I've put it in place knowing that those kind of nights are very close, they're not too far away, and it's dead easy to set up as well, the inner capsule. What you'll notice is if you've got an EXO Plus, just bear with me a sec whilst I just unclip this, what you've got is loads of these little tags on the inside. There's about 20 of them, and if you wonder what they're for the inner capsule, which comes with these little clips or little toggles, I think this is a better word, and they just push into there, and there's about 20 of them throughout the bivvy, and that's what holds it in place. So you've got about an inch or so difference between the inner capsule and the outer bivvy, and that obviously keeps all that condensation off you. You've also got these clips down here as well around the skirt of the bivvy, which keeps it all nice and tense. And you've also got the added bonus of a built-in ground sheet. Now, I'm not too bothered about built-in ground sheets, but I know a lot of people don't like mice and spiders and things like that, which all obviously come out to play at this time of the year. That definitely keeps me in bay. And you'll notice here that I've actually got a mat just in front of the door area, and the reason for that is because the inner capsule's mozzie mesh panel, which comes as standard, actually rolls up down here rather than at the top, and that gets in the way. Don't like it down there, Avid. I have told them. Apparently people like it like that, and that's why it's staying like that, but I don't like it because they end up tripping over it, and it obviously gets mucky as well. So that's why I put the mat down there. But there you go. If you've got an EXO Plus and you want a bit of extra protection for this time of the year, then get yourself the inner capsule. I don't know how much they are, but they're not that expensive, and they're dead easy to fit as well, and they're obviously available from all Avid stockists. Oh, and another thing, because I know I'll get questions about this, can it be packed away with the inner capsule in place? It definitely can. So what I'll do now is just show you a quick video of the bivvy all packed down and in the bag with the inner capsule in place. So there's the EXO Plus bag, all zipped up, and if I unzip it, there inside is the EXO Plus with the inner capsule laid down the side. It is a bit tight, but it does go in. Despite there being some absolutely stunning carp in this lake, there's also a few odd ones. Look at the shape of that one. That is one odd looking fish. Probably a simo. It's got like a bent back, and I think I actually saw that fish today in the water. So doesn't surprise me that I've caught it. That is a really freaky looking fish. But it's a carp anyway. So let's get it out and have a look. That is one really quasi carp. Right, on bite time again. Just as gone dark, we're into one. Not the best looking carp in the lake, but 35 pounds. Hard to hold this one as well because it's a proper weird shape, this one is. Obviously one of the simos, really old fish. Probably been in the lake before the guys owned it, because it used to be a Cemex lake and I think there was a load of simos in it then. But yeah, not a great deal else to say about this one. 35 pounds. I'll show you the side. Ooh. Not a great deal to see on this side either. What a strange looking creature that is. It's like an S shape across its back and an O shape in the middle of it. His head looks absolutely massive. It looks about 90 pounds, but obviously it's not. Anyway, all shapes and sizes. I love catching them all. Morning all. Right, a little bit rough this morning because you know what it's like when you get your sleep interrupted. I had a couple of fish last night. I'm not moaning, but I'd like to have been up at first light watching the water this morning, but I wasn't. I overslept. Got woken up by a pesky coot picking up my baits. We've all been there. Oh God, I know what that is. Anyway, yeah, what I'll do now is just talk a little bit about feeding times and pattern spotting, because this is something I do an awful lot of. It doesn't matter what lake I go to, if I'm fishing there on a regular basis, I'm trying to work out the patterns of the fish, the behaviours of the fish. Of course, I'm a rig man and a bait man as well. I do believe in good rigs and having confidence in the rig. I do believe in good bait as well, but most of all, I spend most of my time looking at the carp, analysing the carp and trying to understand what they're doing. And the more you fish, this is what I found out in my fishing career. I've been carp fishing now for 44 years. I caught my first carp in 1980, so that's 44 years ago. Where's that gone? It only seems like yesterday. But the more you fish and the more years you fish, the more experienced you are, the more you start noticing little patterns emerging over the years. You know, that, oh, that happened last year and that happened the year before that. And I remember when that happened, when the weather was like this. And it's that kind of information that you store it in your mind and you use to your advantage no matter where you go. And obviously the more you fish a lake, the more you see each year is different, or certain swims start to respond at certain times of the year. And I've only been a member on this lake now for a couple of years, but already I'm starting to see little patterns emerging. I remember last year when I fished on here in November, the lake started to slow down, and that was mainly down to the weather. The weather was really cold. We have a lot of overnight frosts, but this year it's been quite mild and the fish are doing something completely different to last year. But the one thing that stands out to me more than anything is that the bites have switched from being at any time during the day and any time during the night to very specific. And I remember this happening last November as well, whereby as soon as it started to go dark, you started to see the fish moving, they started crashing around, and one or two guys caught one or two fish as well. There weren't a great deal caught last November, but the ones that were caught, from my memory, certainly the ones that I caught and one or two of the lads that I'm in communication with, they were catching them just into dark, and it was more nighttime bites than at any other time. So seeing it happen this year, my brain straight away is going, yeah, right, we're seeing exactly the same kind of behaviour here. And I've seen this happen on lots of other waters at this time of the year, and I don't know why they do it. I suspect it's something to do with the natural food cycles and stuff like that, because you tend to see the fish at this time of the year starting to become a little bit more active during the hours of darkness. On here, as soon as it goes dark, you're starting to see one or two fish crashing. In fact, yesterday one of the guys texted me, said he was seeing 2 or 3 come up at the same time just as darkness came. And I've seen this on here myself. I've seen it in this swim last week when I was in here, and already on my first day I started to see fish starting to move just in the hours of darkness, and then the bites are coming as well. Last week I caught 3 out this swim, and they were all between 6 o'clock in the evening and 10 o'clock at night from memory. And this week I've had exactly the same kind of thing happen, where I've caught 2 fish just into the hours of darkness. And you know, this kind of thing happens on lots of different waters. I've seen it on various venues, and I think it's something to do with the natural food cycle, because when November arrives, they do switch, or a lot of waters do switch to nighttime feeding. And then once the really hard frosts come in December, you start to get into the winter months, it then switches more to daytime feeding. You know, I've seen this happen on lots of different waters. It's a cycle that happens year after year. Not everywhere, it doesn't happen on every water, so please don't comment and say, well, look, it doesn't happen on my lake. You know, I'm generalising here, and these are the patterns that you start to see. And I've seen on lots of different waters where feeding times are very, very specific, very, very narrow as well, sort of a little small window of opportunity when you've got a chance of catching fish. And definitely in the winter months, when you get towards December, that seems to happen. Certainly on the waters I fish, those sort of early morning up to sort of midday time, loads of carp I've caught over the years during that sort of period. And on this lake at this time of the year, definitely when it switches into the hours of darkness, that's when the fish are getting more active. And obviously coming into the new year, you start seeing different types of things emerge there. I've had a lot of daytime bites in January, February and March, and then once they start moving around a lot more and the water starts to warm up, that's when you start to get feeding periods throughout the day, throughout the night, whatever. You know, when they're active and they're moving, they are taking chances with bait. So the point I'm getting at here is be observant with, I'm not telling anybody how to fish, I don't like to do that, I just want to try and encourage people to get off this cycle of bait and rigs and the industry talking to you and telling you that's the way to catch carp. There's so many other things that are really important to catching carp on a consistent basis, and obviously the more you fish, the more you start to see these things happening, and you start to tune into how carp are, and you start to work out how they are and work out what swims are best at certain times of the year, working out which areas of the lake are better at certain times of the day. You know, at the moment I'm seeing on lots of different swims around this lake that feeding period is just into the hours of darkness, and if I could, I would just come to this lake and fish during those few hours and then probably go somewhere else and have a go on another lake where maybe you've got a better chance in the day and you can really sort of maximise your fishing across lots of different venues rather than just sitting here and blanking it out. You know, of course, there's a lot more to carp fishing than just catching. Sometimes just sitting it out and enjoying the environment and enjoying the lake is why we go fishing. But if you really do want to maximise your chances, then, you know, there is the possibility of doing that. I remember many years ago fishing on Emmetland in the winter months, and on there during December and January and February it was daytime bites. I was doing a lot of overnighters and getting very little reward for it, but then when I did fish in the hours of daylight I was catching carp. So in the end I started driving all the way up to Emmetland from where I lived at the time in East Yorkshire just to fish for a few hours in the morning and catch some fish. I've done it on other waters as well, and you know, these are the things that you can do when you start to spot those patterns. They aren't easy to come by if you don't fish a great deal, but if you do fish a lot, then you start to see these patterns emerging, and you know, you can start to piece the jigsaw together a little bit easier, and it does tell you a little bit more about how carp are, and it sort of opens your eyes to how carp are and obviously helps you make the most of your time if that's what you want to do. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about in this little piece. Let's get on with enjoying this lake at the moment, because it is very, very dull conditions, but autumn being autumn, it's always nice to have a little look around the lake. So let's have a look at some of the different colours that I've spotted and we walked around yesterday. At this time of the year, I like to use wafters a lot. The fish will have seen everything thrown at them during the summer, so I don't tend to go for conventional wafters, instead preferring slightly heavy hook baits, more to counter the weight of the hook than anything. Today I'm using DNA's SLK, which is a great big fish bait, offering these on my usual rigs comprised of size 6 snag hooks, 8 inches of 15-pound captive coated hook link with all of the outer coating taken off, an Avid lead clip with a 3.5 ounce lead, and you'll also see I've got 18 inches of tubing up the main line. That isn't by choice. I absolutely hate this stuff. It's only there to comply with the lake rules, but I'm really happy with what I'm doing, and I'm very confident that it'll work on this lake. I know it looks like I'm trying to hide behind me my cap at the moment, but I've got a camera light shining right in my eyes. It's absolutely pitch black here. It's absolutely wonderful. It really is. It's so nice. You'd never guess it is November. It's November the 6th today, the day after bonfire night, and this week, just the same as last week and the week before that, I think, it is 15, 16 degrees in the day, 14 degrees at night. It is 8, 9s and 10s, so it's a really, really lovely evening. It's actually warmer today, or this evening now, than it was today, because today there was a little bit of a wind chill in the air, and tonight it's gone absolutely flat calm again. Love that word, absolutely. It's gone totally flat calm again, and it feels like tonight when I get into the bag I'm just going to be wearing a t-shirt because it's so nice. It really is. I love fishing at this time of the year. It's not unseasonable. I've seen lots and lots of Novembers like this. Now, this lake last year fished really hard in November. It just produced half a dozen or so fish, but at the moment it's fishing really well. And that is definitely weather dependent, because last year's November was a lot different to the one at the moment, because now we've got, I think it's about the 3rd week on the trot when this lake has actually fished quite well. It's been fishing a little bit moody this last year, and certainly since the summer months, certainly for me and for a lot of the regular anglers. So, I can't speak to them, they've got a blocked up nose, and some of the regular anglers, there's been periods of 10, 15, I think even 20 nights for some lads where they've had not had any fish. So for me, I think I went 13 nights without any fish on this lake. I did lose a couple, one of which was an absolute whacker, a mid-40, saw it below the boat, kind of know which fish it was as well. So, you know, I did get a little bit of action, but I've not been getting on the fish, and a lot of the fish have been holding up in this shallower water and around where the weed is, and that's why this particular swim that I'm fishing at the moment has been fishing quite well this last few weeks, because there's a lot of weed down here, and the carp, you know what carp are like with weed, they absolutely love the stuff, but they have started to break it up a bit now, started moving around, and at night these are the times when the bites have been coming. And just want to sort of say a few words now about night fishing, because when you're fishing the water and it is predominantly night bites, obviously there's a routine that you need to go through, and my routine is just having things to hand, because it's so easy to be fast asleep in the dark. You know, this time of the year especially, we tend to be in bed a lot longer than we are during the summer months. I think it's about, for me, it's about 7 hours a night I go to sleep during the summer months, but when it gets to dark and winter like this now, I tend to do about 8 hours a night. So we're all known for doing a little bit longer sleeping at this time of year. That's the point I'm getting at. So you need those things to hand, because there's nothing like coming out the bivvy in the dark when you're fast asleep and you don't know where anything is. I've even done things like, I've got a bite and I don't know which rod it is, because all 3 of the buzzer lights are on, so you're kind of sitting there trying to work out, your brain is which rod is the one that's got the fish on. And I've even been known to hit all 3 to try and work out which one it is, because when you're half asleep, you know, you're not on full alert, especially as you get older, and you know, you're a bit more prone to sort of doing stupid things, whereas when you're younger, you're on high alert, you tend to do things a lot more simpler and a lot easier. But you know, just make things easier for yourself. And you might see just down there, just in front of my rods, I've actually got my barra. Now it's a weird place to put your barra, but I've got everything in that barra. There's my torch in there, there's even my head cam in there, I've got my waders in there, I've got everything that I need. I've even got a spare jumper down there and a jacket just in case it rains, because you know, if you leave it in the bivvy and then you get to your rods and you need something, you've got to go back to the bivvy, it's an absolute pain in the ass. So at least having that barra down there, I've got everything to hand, so I can just step into my waders, you know, they're hidden away just in case it rains as well. I can then just get my head torch on, real easy. So you know, it's common practice for me. It's something I do regularly, so I try and make things a little bit easier for myself. The other thing I tend to do as well is I always make sure I've got a photograph of my swim, so when I do get a fish in the dark, I know all of the landmarks on the horizon, I can line them all up, I know roughly where I'm fishing to, and if I can't recall it in my own head, at least I've got a photograph on my phone of where my spots are. So what I tend to do is put the marker float out there, line it up with something on the horizon, take a photograph of it. That's the left hand rod, that's the middle rod, that's the right hand rod. I've got a record of it, so if I do need to cast out again once I've had a fish, then you know, I've got an idea where I roughly need to be. You know, I've already wrapped things up with the sticks and stuff, so you try to basically be as accurate as you possibly can, because you know, it's not easy fishing lakes like this, especially because it's absolutely pitch black down here. It's well away from main roads and places that are just just got a little bit more extra light that makes things a little bit easier, but down here it's just pitch black. Another thing I think I'll cover now is self-photography, because you know I do quite a lot of fishing on my own. I've got somebody next to me at the moment, Steve, just down to the right, but I do fish on my own, and I certainly do all of my own photography and my own videography as well. So maybe what I'm going to talk about now might be of use to one or two of you if you are on those kind of lakes. So I'll do that because the camera's starting to steam up now. So right, let's have a quick look at my setup then for nighttime photography and videography. Very simple. There's the mat and the sling down there. We have to use the lake's own mats and slings, but as you can see, the area that I've chosen has got loads of cover around. We've got trees, we've got bushes, not so many leaves about at the moment, but we've got trees and bushes all the way around me. And the reason for that is that when I put my lights on, which I've got over here, I'll talk about that in a moment, and I put the light on the video camera, which I'm using at the moment, I've got lots of bounce back from the light, so it's really lighting up the area where I'm going to be doing my fish pictures. So what I've got down here is my tripod. I only use a small one. There's a top that goes on that tripod, which is currently attached to the camera that's in my hands, and as you can see over here, I've got my barrow, and all I've done is just stuck a ridge monkey onto it. Now that's 2 settings on that ridge monkey. Well, there's actually 3, because there's an off setting, the light setting, and then the higher light setting. Now I always use the second setting, which is the brightest at the moment, when I'm doing any video work in the dark, because I've got a camera that I'm using now which has got a light on it as well. So imagine if I was holding a fish down there, that's what you'd be looking at when I'm videoing it. Now when it comes to my photography work, that is slightly different. There's my camera down there. What I'll do is stick the camera on the tripod, self-timer, etc. I'm not going to give you a lesson on how to take photographs, but what I'll do with this one is I won't create as much light with a ridge monkey. I'll just have that on the lowest setting, just so I can see what I'm doing, and then basically I'll be just working mostly off the flash from the camera. So there you go, dead simple. And all I need to do now is show you how it works with the fish on the mat. So let's get the video camera set up and ready for a nice big old fat carp. I said earlier on about bite times being very specific at this time of the year and very much in the hours of darkness, and what do you know, between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock, that's bite time on this lake at the moment, and that is a great way to end. Almost a 40 pounder in November, 39 pounds 14 ounces. Absolutely brilliant. There's the other side of it as well. Fantastic fish to catch in November, and a great way to end this month's vlog. I've no doubt in the next few weeks we'll start to see more daytime bites, but I don't mind catching them in the dark when they're as lovely as that.